Hi, my name is Rusani Masindi. I am a software engineer at Gradesmatch. And today I want to show you the strengths and limitations of Chat GPT using a context from Gradesmatch. One of the things that we do at Gradesmatch is take high school student marks and match them with university entrance requirements. We do have all qualifications in South Africa in our database and their requirements. And I want to see whether or not ChatGPT can understand the requirements as stored in our database. Now let's see how ChatGPT does it.
Now, since ChatGPT experiences timeouts, what I have here is an existing conversation that I already had with it. The first thing that I said was a JSON array, which represents a qualification requirement from my database. And this is what ChatGPT had to say. This appears to be a complex logical statement that is likely being used as a set of requirements or conditions for some type of program or course. I mean, this is already impressive. The fact that it had to infer that this is being used for some type of program or course. The overall statement is using logical operators and or to link together several conditions or requirements that must be met, which is also good. The first requirement is that subject ID 2 must have a minimum requirement of 60, and that subject is required. The second requirement is that subject ID 20 must have a minimum mark of 50, and that subject is required. The third requirement is a set of all conditions, meaning that the student must meet at least one of the following conditions. And this is absolutely correct. So it also gives a summary. This is impressive already. I am going to skip through some of these things that I've been saying to it, but one of the things I did was to update the entrance requirement using the X variable because I declared an X variable over there, and I gave additional properties to a new JSON object, which is the name, the institution ID, the entrance, and this is how a single object is represented in our database. Then it was able to just make sense of what I'm trying to say. And one of the next things that I asked it to do was actually to read the subject IDs. So it's an ID and a name, and this is a list of all subject IDs. And what I'm trying to do with this is to ensure that it can, instead of giving us subject IDs, it can give us subject names. And I'm just going to scroll through all of that. And I asked it to describe the entrance using the equivalent subject name, and it was able to describe the original output, but this time instead of using subject IDs, it actually uses subject names, and this is also very impressive. Now, the next thing that I do is just give it another different qualification requirement, and this time the entrance is actually a string instead of a JSON object. And how you know it's a string is that you can see this quotation marks around it, but what is inside it is actually a string, and this is because of the whole stringifying of a JSON object. And now it was able to again give an analysis of that. I give it another one, it gives an analysis of it. I give it another one. So this is the fourth one that I'm giving it, and it gives an analysis. Again, all of this analysis are just correct, right? I mean, you can see here you have 65 for subject ID 2 and 60 for subject ID 20, and then there's a set of OR, and then it gives that you right here 65 for mathematics, 60 for physical science, and a list of ORs 50 for English home language, and 60 for isiZulu home language. Okay. Now, the next thing I ask it is just to ask it how many requirements I gave it, and it just gave a summary over there. Again, this is very impressive. It shows that ChatGPT understands language, and in the sense of it being a language model, because what I'm giving it is a JSON object of a data structure in my own context, and it is able to make sense of it. And what I do next is give it a list of student subjects. So this student is mathematics as 88, geography as 99, life orientation, life sciences, physical sciences, accounting, and isiZulu home language. Now, intentionally, what I did with this learner is that this learner should meet all the requirements of the 4 qualifications requirements that I gave above. Now, I ask it to match the student with this student marks with the I think it's the 4th qualification, which is geomatics, and it did a very impressive job. It says it gives first a summary, just what's going on, what it needs to do, and then it was able to just do that and tell us that this learner actually meets the requirements of this course. And we can see that it sees student mark for mathematics is 88, which is higher than the minimum of 65. Physical sciences is 99, which is higher than 60. IsiZulu language is 99, which is higher than 60. Impressive. Now, this means that it can do what we are doing at Gradesmatch, which is taking learner grades and match it with qualification requirements. It can do it. However, now I ask it to do all of that against the four requirements and give me the report of how the learner meets the requirements of the four programs or courses, and it just got it wrong. The only thing it got right was the one which I asked it to match up individually, and the other three it actually got wrong. And this is the limitation of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a language API, it's a language model. It's not something which can do, complex mathematical operations and comparisons and all of that. And this is why it's getting it wrong. I mean, I end up getting into a debate with it, trying to show it that, but what are you talking about? I ask it to provide the reasons. And even by reading reasons, you become shocked that what is it saying? Look at this reason. The student does not meet the minimum requirement of 60 for mathematics and physical science. What is it talking about? And over here, it says the student meets the minimum requirement of 65 for physical science and mathematics. That's a contradiction with the very first item. And in fact, it's a contradiction with all of them. The student meets the requirements for all of them. So I try and go deeper, just asking it, why is it saying what it is saying? And it just goes to show that it can't do some complex matching, but it can understand your JSON object. So those are the limitations. It's all about the language. So if something looks like a language, whether it's a JSON structure or data structure, it can make sense of the data structure and do something intelligent with it, but to a certain limit, especially when you're asking it to perform a complex algorithm of doing a match and all of that. It was able to do it for the one course, but with the other courses, it is not getting it right. So that's some of the limitations of ChatGPT. Overall, very impressive. I have been able to ask it to write code snippets for me. I was able to ask it to write Python code to modify some data with an input of a CSV, and it was able to do all of that. So I'm liking what I see so far.